This is why driving alone late at night is not for everybody. The person who submitted this has been tagged down below. Her name is Zyra. About 2 years ago, Zyra was leaving the hospital. Her shift had just ended and it had been snowing. Being that it was about 11:30 p.m., the streets were pretty much empty. When she finally made it back to her car after working a long shift, she got in, looked over at her passenger seat, and right away was filled with this sense of fear. She felt the presence of something, as if something was sitting in the passenger seat just staring at her. She tried to ignore it and shrugged it off, thinking that she was probably just tired, so she put some music on to distract herself. But as she was halfway home, she couldn't ignore it anymore. She kept saying silent prayers in her head, hoping whatever this thing was would leave her car, but no matter what she did, this thing just stayed in her passenger seat, just staring at her. She decides to then call her mom to try to get her mind off of it. Being that it was late, she didn't expect her mom to pick up, but after a couple rings, her mom did answer the phone. Her teenage niece was also awake, so between Zyra, her mom, and her niece, they all held a conversation over the speakerphone. Zyra started doing small talk, asking them about their day and how they felt about the snow, etc. Anything to get her mind off of the fact that she had this thing right next to her. Zyra eventually made it home, but it wasn't until after she got home that things got really scary. Her mom and her niece were just sitting in the kitchen waiting for her. Her niece then asked her, "So were you alone?" Zyra responds with, "What do you mean, like when I was in the car driving? Why are you asking me that?" Her niece then looked at her mom, and her mom says, "Well, I wasn't going to tell you while we were on the phone because I didn't want to freak you out, but we could hear a man talking in the background." At that moment, Zyra got goosebumps. Then her niece proceeds to tell her, "Yeah, it sounded like the man was talking right next to you, but we couldn't understand what he was saying." Zyra looked at both her mom and niece in shock and finally told them the reason why she had called him in the first place, because she felt this presence in her car. Till this day, she doesn't know what was sitting next to her in the car, but she knows whatever it was did not have any good plans for her. Quick little side note, she had just left the hospital. When you work at the hospital, especially night shift, there are things that wander around that area at all times, and it was probably just a moment of opportunity where this thing saw her and decided that it was gonna catch a ride with her.
Have you ever heard the ghostly story of the Gray Man? Along the coast of Pawleys Island, South Carolina, a ghost that's been named the Gray Man has been seen along the shores for nearly 200 years and warns residents of incoming hurricanes and storms. Many accredit the Gray Man to saving their lives. Those who have encountered him say he will tell them to leave the island immediately, a storm is coming. Those wise enough to heed his warning will come back to find their homes untouched by the storms. Encounters with the ghostly apparition date back to 1822. And since then, there have been hundreds of sightings of him all along the Carolina coast. We've even caught the spirit on camera a few times. The Gray Man is appreciated by locals. He's seen as a watchful protector of the island and is here to help, not harm. We need more ghosts like the Gray Man, right? If you want the full story of the haunting of the Gray Man, check out the most recent Avery After Dark podcast episode just dropped. So interesting, and the stories are so spooky. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else that you listen.
I asked, "How old are you really?" It paused, and the planchette slowly moved to 0. Even though I was a dumb 17-year-old, I knew that was not good. So it was time to abort mission, close session. Again, because I was stupid. I decided to continue engaging, and I said, "Will you let us speak to any of the other present entities?" And it said, "No." I said, "Okay, well, we're ready to close the session. Would you like to say goodbye?" And it said, "Nope." So as if I was talking to some little kid, I said, "Well, if you're not going to let us talk to anybody else, we're going to have to say goodbye." And it just went, "No, no, no, no." So that's when I decided being kind and patient was not working anymore, and I needed to be stern and direct. So I stated, "You have no power here. We are controlling the session, and we are ready to say goodbye." So my friend and I began to move the planchette to goodbye. And I don't know if she remembers this as vividly as I do, but I swear it felt like something was magnetically pulling against as we were pushing it towards goodbye. And I knew it was not her moving it because she looked just about as scared shitless as I was. Also, this was not the kind of friend to play pranks like that. So we had to push the planchette over the words goodbye, and we said goodbye. and the feeling kind of went. Once the staticky, icky feeling went away, I looked at my friends and I told them, this is really not good. Even though I was 17 and stupid, I knew enough to know that if something says it is 0 years old, that means it has never existed on this earth. And when it said it was 0, that was the only time I genuinely felt it was answering candidly. Also, it made me kind of want to throw up a little bit. I told my friend I thought that whatever it was really negative, potentially demonic, and that it had essentially tainted this board, that it was spoiled, that nothing else could come through because it had left a stain on this portal, essentially is what they are, and she could never use it without only that entity coming through. And I told her if she wasn't careful and she accidentally permitted it to manifest itself outside of the board, she was inviting it into her home. So my advice was to get rid of it, never use one again, and especially never ever ever take one inside of your home. And that was essentially it. She did what I told her. Years went by, I stopped thinking about it until one day I saw an article titled Zozo the Ouija Demon, also known as Mama.
This person may have just caught a Wendigo on camera. I'm gonna roll the clip right now.
Himself riding his bike around the gardens of his town. However, he is almost brought down by some creature that almost collides with him. You can see that he is definitely startled, and when he turns around to see what almost hit him, it is gone. Some people say that this could just be an escaped monkey of some sort, while others say it could be a juvenile.
We don't know how, and we don't know why, but people in this national park are being murdered. So this is the Valley of the Headless Men. It is truly one of the most mysterious and unexplored places on Earth. Now in 1908, 2 brothers went into the valley looking for gold, but they disappeared. 2 years later, they were found beside the Nahanni River, decapitated. Their heads were never found. And what is even worse, it happened again, and again, and again. In the last 100 years, 44 people have gone missing in the valley, only to be found without their heads. Some of them have even been burned alive before being decapitated. In the 60s, some hikers claimed that they saw a Bigfoot-like creature, but every hiker in the 60s claimed that they saw Bigfoot, so I'm not convinced personally. Now, the Dene people have lived in this region for thousands of years, and their oral history warns of the Naha tribe, an ancient cannibalistic people who used to hunt in the valley. But no trace of any human settlement has ever been found in the valley. It is a dead zone. Now, we still don't know why this happens. Claims that these were animal attacks does not explain why so many of them were burned before being decapitated. 100 years of murders by the same method. What do you think?
Normal looking photos that have a disturbing backstory. Part 29. This stroller belongs to a 4-year-old Ukrainian girl named Liza. In July of last year, she and her mother Irina were hit by a Russian missile. This is 23-year-old Ricardo Lopez. Over the course of a few months, he vlogged the entire process of making and sending a bomb to his favorite singer, Bjork. Luckily, the package was intercepted, but not before Ricardo took his life on camera. This X-ray shows an infant victim of the 1999 Brixton nail bombing. A neo-Nazi named David Copeland bombed areas across London, but miraculously, the baby survived. This photo shows 69 boys in a dormitory before it was set on fire in 1959. And while 48 of them managed to escape, 21 of them died in the flames. Further, police never investigated who or what caused the fire.
If you are afraid of the dark, keep scrolling. Walking alone in the dark can be a chilling experience. The sound of your footsteps on the streets, echoing through a dark alley, can send a shiver down your spine. This TikToker had the brilliant idea to take a walk at night. What she recorded will make you think twice before walking at night ever again. There seems to be a thin, daunting figure peeking around the corner. However, it looks like she did not notice the figure at all. So what do you think this horrifying figure was? Was it a ghost? Or was it something else? If you enjoy stories that make you shiver, make sure to follow us on TikTok and on Instagram. But remember,